This is the sixth in our series of videos about N-tier architecture. In particular, this time we're going to talk about change, making changes to our database. All right, speaking of changes, we've made changes to our GUI screen. We've replaced the list box that we had in our last video with some GUI manipulation. And but a lot of our code has remained the same. So for example, our delete code, which we've last time remember was in a double click on the list box, we've moved to a delete button. But essentially it's the same thing, that if indeed we have selected something, we convert this into a user. We then take the ID of that user and delete it from the database. We remove it then from the, in this case, combo box, last time list box, same thing really. And we just sort of adjust the screen to set or reset the appropriate items on the appropriate controls on the screen. So let's see what else we've done to our screen. Okay, what we've done is we've added a simple validation method, and this should look pretty obvious to what we've done. We've done this all term. Essentially, what we've done is we just take the email text box and move that into my user, and we use an error provider to set the error and the focus, and return true or false appropriately. We do the same thing with name. That's pretty straightforward. We've talked about the delete button before. We're going to talk about the accept button in a minute. In the email combo box, when somebody selected something from the email combo box, what we've done is we just convert the combo box selected item, selected user, into a user, and then we fill up the text boxes from the user and adjust our screen accordingly. Enable, disable, just does that, just does some basic simple GUI manipulation to prevent users from making mistakes. Essentially what that is all about. This form load should look pretty familiar, only we're loading up a combo box instead of a list box, but same thing, right? And the form closing is identical to what we've had before. And we have an add button and a clear button, but we'll talk about that more in future videos. So let's go back over here to the user database side of things. Remember, what we want to do is we want to create a change method that has a myUser parameter. So once again, this is going to be a public static void method, and this is going to be called change, and it's going to have a user parameter, and we'll just call it myUser for our standards. Okay, this is going to be very similar to what we did in the delete portion of things. So we're just going to copy and paste because it worked well before, so let's try to do it again. Now, in this case, we had a integer user ID that we used. Now, we don't have a parameter that's integer. However, in myUser, we have an ID property of myUser. And then, once we've selected the appropriate row using ID, we now want to change the fields of that row. So, my data row. Now, fortunately, we've set up a symbolic constant called email, and we want that to be myuser.email. And again, we want to change my data row, and this is going to be name. Once again, we've set up a symbolic constant that comes to our rescue, and it's going to be myuser.name. That's all we need to do as far as the change side of things go. don't have to do anything special like delete it. We just go out and we just change it to what was sent into it. So let's go over now, and we'll double click on accept if you haven't created this already. Remember, it's very important to not just sort of type in what you see here, right? That you need to form the event by either double clicking on the event, which is how you get the standard event. The other way you can do things is you can go into the properties window, you can pick the events tab, and you can go over here to click or any of these other events and just double click on that so that we get the particular the particular method that we want, the particular event handler that's tied in to that particular event. All right, now what we're going to be doing again is very similar to what we did in delete, so as well copy, right? Now we're going to have to make some changes, but we'll start out from that. So essentially what we did here is we said, okay, so provided that we have somebody selected, we're going to change my user to the selected item. Now we're not going to do delete, right? It's going to be change instead, and it's going to, instead of my user.id, we're going to do my user. Now the other thing that we need to do here, I think what we need to do first here is this, is we have to do a validation, right? Because we don't want to just update things just to update things, right? We want to be sure that they're okay, and that's why we've written our validation methods. And so the validation methods that we wrote now are isValidName and isValidEmail. And since we're doing error providers, we want to validate from bottom to top. So we're going to say isValidUser, my user, and then we're going to use a single, which is instead of a double and the double and is a short circuit operator which stops after the first one. The single one is not a short circuit operator, which means that it validates name and it validates email regardless. So here we're going to do validates email, and then we're going to have my user. Okay, so if all of that is correct, we didn't have to do that before in delete because delete, it didn't matter for delete. So we're going to take all of this and put this inside here. There we go. So if we've validated this correctly, then we're going to change my user. We're going to remove it from the combo box, the selected item from the combo box, but then we're going to add it right on back. Okay, because what this does, because our email, our combo box is sorted in alphabetical order by email, if we've changed the email to something that's out of alphabetical order, we will have caused a problem with our combo box. So we need to add it back here. So email combo box, oops, I'm sorry, not email combo box, we want to add my user back. So we delete it and then we re-add it just on the off chance that we've changed email combo box. That just keeps it in alphabetical order by doing this little trick here. Alright, so that's all that we have to do on that side of things. We're still going to have to do something on the other side of things too, right? Because as we know, we need to change not only figure out a way to update this, which is what we've done. We also have to figure out a way to change our update command, and we'll do that in a minute, but let's just test out what we've done here so far, okay? So we've gone up here, and we'll run the program and see what happens. We'll select the user. Notice that they're very nicely sorted in alphabetical order. So we'll select the user, okay, and let's just see what happens when we delete all of these things. Okay, this says, please enter an email length between 1 and 50, and this says, please enter an email length between, or name length between 1 and 50. So if we put in a name, and we can always clear things out, so let's change ABC. So let's change ABC to XYZ, and change this to change 1. Okay, and say accept. Notice that ABC has disappeared, XYZ shows up. All right, and now what we don't have hooked up yet is if we leave this, it'll say update requires a valid update command when passed to data row collection with modified rows. We were sort of expecting that, weren't we? Okay, so let's go in and set that up. Again, we can use the delete as a model for what we're doing. So we'll just copy this down here. Now this is going to be an update. So this is our SQL for update. And this is going to say update update users, and then the command is set email equals at email, and then name equals at name, where ID equals at ID. Okay, so we've done this. Now, just like in the delete command, we're going to do the same sort of thing here, and I'm just going to, again, just going to copy this down over here. And now this is going to be update command, and that's going to be a new SQL, only we're going to use update in order to create this command object. And then we need to add parameters here, and the first parameter is going to be ID, but remember in the delete command that's all that we needed. We just had one parameter. Here not only do we have the ID parameter, but we have the email and name parameters as well. So we'll take this and copy this in. And it doesn't matter where we copy it, because these parameters, I'm going to copy them below here, okay? So because the parameters are named parameters, and this is going to be email. Now the type is not going to be integer. It's going to be ncar. And the source column is not going to be ID. It's going to be email. So once again, our symbolic constant comes to the rescue. And over here, this is going to be name. This is going to be ncar, just like this The only difference is going to be the source column is going to be name. Alright. Okay, so that worked. Now the last thing that we have to do is exactly analogous to what we did over here. So where we're going to set our user data adapter dot update command, and that's going to be equal to our variable update command. So our property is going to be equal to our variable. So notice we just used something that we had before as our model and just changed it slightly. All right, let's see if that works. So we run the program, and we now get ABC. And remember, we changed this to XYZ as we did before. This is going to be changed 1, and we'll do accept. Spell that correctly. Changed 1. We'll do accept, and then we'll exit. Now we haven't had a problem, but did it really get changed? So we go look in here. Maybe I made a mistake over here. If we think that there's a problem, let's go in over here into properties and see, oh, ha, we forgot to do this again. We changed from copy always. This needs to be copy if newer. Okay, I made that mistake so that you would see it, because it seems to be something that is sort of a consistent thing that I find in users or in students' work, that they don't change that to copy if newer. How do you know whether your program works if you don't change it to copy if newer? Now, if I change it to copy if newer and everything works, everything's fine. But frequently, there's another problem along the way, and so let me just say, you need to change it to copy if newer. If things don't seem to be working, the first thing you want to do, just go into Solution Explorer, right-click on Test, go to Properties, make sure that this Copy to Output directory says copy if newer. Now we'll run the program and see what happens, and we'll go up here. We're going to change this to XYZ. We're going to change this to changed 1. We're going to accept our changes, and we're going to exit the program. We're going to start our program again to see whether this works, and ha-ha, it did indeed work. It did indeed change email, and it did indeed change names. You want to be sure that you go through and you check each one of those things and make sure that it works. Okay, I think that's all for this particular video. Next time we'll talk about ads.